Thank you very much, and I'd like to welcome all of you. I'm very happy I cannot be there in person, but that's better than nothing. Let me introduce myself. My name is Olga, and I design user interface, and I've been doing it for quite a while. Most are quite scary business processes, corporate things, and they want to be simple, intuitive, and evident. My previous job, among other things, I had to write technical setups to be developed. Like if you put a notion that you had cancel, so you need to delete the notion from the sum and then bring down the window. But I hope my technicalities are not as boring. This was boring, however. So one modal window could take up to 1 to 3 pages of A4. Problem is, we developed huge soft modules. We had so many letters. My personal anti-record, 280 pages of A4 if we are to export it from Confluence. Harry Potter, but still there's no plot and the characters are no good. And nobody wanted to read this. So there was only happy pass. They took a look at what was happening. They implemented what was there and then came to see me as an analyst and asked me lots of questions. Like what should the system do if there's too many data? What if nothing is input? And what if the end date is higher, lower, whatever? And I was giving them links to read. I was unhappy and I was crying in the kitchen. No one was reading those papers. I thought I was hopeless, but my analytical colleagues told me exactly the same. No one wants to read those papers. They want pictures. You don't know what they want. And you just spend your life to write lots of letters that nobody wants to read. And I was once so much seriously thinking about picturing comics. At least they could read something. And seriously, writing everything just for fun. And then I just quit, and that was the end of it. But not so. So in my new job, nothing was required from me. But I had to uphold the hierarchy in adequate state and also to build scenarios so everybody would know what was happening. Communication is not as important. And that was the time when I remembered about the user flow. User flow is a good thing that I read so much about, and I asked others to do it, like in some other projects. But one thing is giving tips, another thing is doing things yourself. What is user flow? If you look at Wikipedia description, this is a diagram that shows path a user will take in an application to complete a task. So just imagine this. And just imagine you would throw cubes from A to B and possibly some diversion and sometimes blind alleys. This is how your user way looks like. I had excellent examples. Some time ago, I understood that when I was using a single shop, probably was the moment when I should be having a bonus card. And I used the link on the card, and then I checked the website, and then I found a section where I could activate the card. There was a user agreement. I checked agree, and then my personal data was to be processed, and I agreed that also. Then it asked me to fill out a lot of personal data, and I agreed to those. And then they offered to call operator because only new cards could be activated. Old cards, the one I had, could not be activated. We're very sorry. And now I don't think we would look at it in more detail. Those unpleasant people were simply collecting data from users to sell them. That was just a trap. Or perhaps they were not. But let's imagine this whole scenario. Just imagine how it could be reduced so that the user could be happy and use it for the second time as a bad example. So, anything that user would do could be represented as a sequence of steps. All in all, I think when you don't want to work manually, they can easily argue about what it is all about. But we can talk about it also a lot. And this is infrastructure, this is storytelling, this is art, this is lots of things. But I think that interface is a story, like a storytelling here, that we're a young company, we give you best service. Every interface is a story. Where you go left, you will find this. You walk right, you will read about this. You go direct, well, you 500. And we forgot to do something. Now we are analysts. We know better than others what should happen in a product. We can start building user flow, like the sequence of steps. From day one, when we talk to customer, and quite often we have this question here: why an analyst should draw something? Those are mock-ups. Those are like some colors, some buttons, and so on. This is not for analysts to do. This is what designers should do. All in all, yes and no. User flow, just like any other prototype interface, is a scenario of this or other area. It can can have a lot of details. Then you have a wonderful owl and so on.
But a scenario could have a low detail, and then we'll have a succession of anything else. Remember that board game field, crosses and arrows and nothing else. Main tips for building user flow are predicated on diagrams. Sometimes it's very convenient to sketch something on a piece of paper to have an idea of what we have. And it's good to do it at an early stage. With that said, I don't like diagram representation because it looks too technological. Let's imagine we need to create a system that will tell users the time. If we represent it as diagrams, we can offer a number of settings that users will have to do. Otherwise, you will not be able to use that app for a long time. We'll ask for a time zone will propose to choose a format of the clock with a two-digit code, for example, 12 or 24 AM, PM. We'll ask for most favorite color, because it's much better to use your own customized product. And only after that will user be able to see the time. It makes sense. We even predict where something could go wrong. Let's imagine you're walking down the street and ask the first person you meet what time it is. And he goes, where? And you go, here, where we are now. What time is it now? And he says, or she says, which format are you interested in? 12-hour or 24 hours? I think if someone presents me with this choice, I would leave immediately, because this kind of dilemma sounds a bit off. These principles of communication work in interfaces just as well. The first thing we need to understand and why users need that product. What are they after? And this saves us in many situations. It works to address a number of goals. First, we understand the priorities, and as we then proceed to build the user flow, consisting of several steps, we'll know what the main objective is, which is also main priority. Users should not achieve anything else. If users' interest is to find the time, this scenario should never end with color choice or color palette. The user should know the exact time. So, we have a user, we know what he's for. He's there to ask for the time. So we give him the time. Is it the end of the script? No, evidently. Unless it's the time in his time zone. It was such a great example for Yerevan, but my example is no longer as representative. If a user is in Yerevan and the time shows the west side time, it means that the system has lied or provided incorrect information. What can we do? We can predict users' steps to receive the desired effect. Ta-da! Or we can iron out some roughness and bypass some of the steps automatically. The system could try to automatically load user location information and give the respective information. It's all up to your product then. Most of the time, people want to receive location information. Sometimes I want to know what time is it now. I never say it. Or what time it is at my parents' house. So we build in another scenario by which we figure out what time it is elsewhere, thus meeting the needs of our users. And those scenarios do not fall from the sky. They should be evidence-based and data-driven. Most importantly, remember about my interest in drawing comic strips. That's what I'm actually doing. User flows I'm building in my work are most straightforward and banal. They imitate the dialogue between user and the system. I can sketch something that should be relevant for the situation, I provide some notes or comments about what else could be needed. Or I set up happy passes when everything works well. And alternatively, when something went wrong. This results in a set of pictures that are easier to look at and that take less time than representing all of that in letters. My case with the watch may sound too far-fetched and silly. I mean, who needs that? But as soon as you start thinking about users' main action in the app and how deeply it's rooted or hidden in an app, it's not as fun. A user flow is not a silver bullet, however good it is. There's a multitude of situations where it will not do the trick. First is when we talk about technical things. User flow suggests the presence of a user. So if you design interactions between systems or some other technical stuff that a user is hardly involved, there is no need to describe dialogue. The system has no expectations. Systems are not used to communicating with others. Systems communicate based on algorithms. Secondly, let's talk about changes. Changes could occur in the process of work when you realize a script has changed, something is wrong or something is missing, and you have to draw extra windows or arrows. There are also situations where changes come over time, at a later date, in a week, in a month, in a year. And all these changes need to be captured in your diagrams to be able to continue to use the product. And there is no perfect solution here. There are several ways, though. For example, you could build all the schemes as one big canvas. On the plus side, you will see a full scope of a project you need to grapple with, because sometimes you believe it's a 3 days job, but it turns out to last for months. Besides, you will see for yourself where areas of improvement are. The shortcoming is clear: too many screens. At some point, machinery may fail. I remember when my computer froze trying to upload all the screens. Besides, it can confuse your team members with overlapping and repeating scenarios. It results in a mayhem. Secondly, you can split a big flow into smaller scenarios. You have 4 screens. What needs to be done, you know. And there could be 5, 20, 25, or even 100 screens. You can refuse evaluation even if it takes only 3 days. You have to rely on awareness of your team members and hoping that no one would delete anything. Managing versions of split scenarios is easier because it gives you more controls. You can delete and forget about it, or you can add something. Or you could save scenarios. This is a holy war topic. It depends on the culture of your environment, your team, and your product. In my current work, I do not save older versions. I have two work areas. First, the drafts, where I keep new steps approved by managers and customers and so on. And there is a set of clean layouts, the way the system should work, because it has been approved by everybody. The disadvantage is, in 6 months, we will not know why the system worked the way it did 6 months ago. We should be aware that we are dealing with letters, a lot of letters on top of that nobody wants to read, including me, and there is no link here with releases, glossaries, or epics. Such policy has made sense thus far, but in a year, I think it would make a perfect topic for another presentation. How I lost a history of users. But I hope it won't happen. To summarize, use pictures, not words. One of the golden rules in interface representation is words is the best way to convey information, but no one uses that. Words are hard and painful to read. You scan the text. You don't look hard into it. Pictures work better. And it's good for you and for clients. Dialogues, not algorithm. We are people. We like to talk. Maybe we don't like it, but we have to. We do not submit to algorithm. We are complex social creatures, and that's the way things are. And thirdly, processes are still scary. We may be overlooking something. We have to read, draw, paint at the last moment. But that's our salient feature. That means we will never be substituted by AI, which in itself is good news. I started with saying that development didn't read my plots. But they do look for plot holes or logic holes, and when it comes to implementation, we are all happy to achieve justice so that holes are fewer and fewer. And I think it's the best result. With this, I end my presentation. Thank you for listening. You can contact me using the contact information. I cannot recommend any good literature at this time. Because building interfaces is fairly new and young, there is still no mature products, but there is Google, but we can still engage in a holy war on this.
Thank you. There seems to be no question. Thank you. Thank you.